Are you interested in media coverage with over 80,000 podcast playbacks per month, along with automated outreach to thousands of customized targets to grow your revenue more efficiently? With over $8 billion in new sales pipeline growth delivered to our partners so far, we can help. Please reach out for more information. Hey, welcome everybody to Supply Chain Innovators. I am Mike Vincent, and my guest is Andrew Smith, someone who I talked to many years ago, 6-7 years ago when things were they're still new, which is kind of cool. It's still exciting what you're doing. CEO, founder at Outrider, is that right? Yeah, okay, because it's not in your title, but I thought it was. Longtime logistics from aerodynamic skirts on trailers and all that other kind of stuff, and a Dartmouth grad as well. I am not, but I thought I'd throw that in there anyways. And man, welcome to the show, brother. I'm glad to have you on.
Hey, thanks so much. It is always great to have a chance to reconnect.
Yeah, I think when we first spoke, I don't think you had an autonomous vehicle yet, did you?
I think we may have had a very basic prototype, but back in the 2017, 2018 time period, automation was a lot different than it is today. So yeah, the capabilities we have today kind of blows away even what we talked about back then.
Yeah, you had like an RC joystick, and
we never did the Atari autonomous car, but we had in those very early years. We could just in 2018 we started to move trailers, but I look forward to telling you what AI has done to this industry.
I bet it has done a lot, and I bet it's a lot more than people go powered by AI. I talking to Peter Lundenfeld, who we mentioned earlier. He said, people say powered by AI when they really should be saying it's wearing AI shoes or something like that, right? But hey, tell people who have been living on a rock or don't geek out over these cool things like I do, what Outrider is, what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So Outrider is the industry creator of autonomous yard operations. So where we play is in the gap between the over-the-road transportation and all of the technology that's inside warehouses or production facilities. We work in the distribution yard, in the intermodal rail terminal, in the port logistics area. But we are essentially doing that repetitive task of taking trailers from an over-the-road tractor trailer, moving it to the right loading dock at the right time, moving it away to a staging area, moving it to the other side of the building, getting it reloaded, getting it repositioned. And what our job is to drive dramatic improvements in efficiency, safety, and sustainability in the modern yard, while also driving efficiency inside the warehouse by putting the right trailer at the right place at the right time, and by reducing congestion and the most painful part of the over-the-road trucker's day by pre-staging trailers and knowing exactly when that over-the-road truck's coming in so they can drive into a gate, trailer for pickups waiting for them, and they get on the road that much faster. So we want to streamline the entire system. We want to do it sustainably and safely.
It is fantastic. We were speaking earlier because when I first heard about what you were doing, got the pleasure of meeting you the first time, it was like, yes, this guy gets it. This is where the autonomy needs to be. Driving straight for 150 miles or 300 miles or 1,500 miles. Yeah, I get it. Unless you've done LTL or run a large distribution center dock or a port operation, this is where it can be. How did you get into? Why did you get it? I mean, you were already into technology and getting into it. Was it that technology finally caught up with your curiosity and said, yeah, finally you get to do something cool instead of hanging some plastics on the bottom of a trailer?
And I know, by the way, you've got a lot of interest in the sustainability of the supply chain as well. But,
sure.
My background, I grew up in New England. My favorite thing in the world was going up to New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and spending time in the outdoors. I was a huge outdoors person. Really funny story, though. In sixth grade, not only did I like playing in the woods, but I got really into Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Porsches. And then
mine never got bigger than like this.
Yeah. That's the same. Yeah. But I had really cool posters on my wall.
So did I.
And so true story. In seventh grade, I had this science teacher, and she let me know that Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Porsches got bad fuel economy. It was a true story.
Yeah.
And so I declared that I wanted to work on really cool, sustainable technology.
Okay.
That's a true story. So as I went through, so one of my first jobs, I worked with electric vehicles. This is over 25 years ago. I worked with wind energy, solar energy efficiency technologies. Mid 2000s, I was introduced to a really simple fact that the least aerodynamic shape to pull down the highway at 60 miles an hour was actually a big rectangular box, and we move a couple million of those on a daily basis.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
And so I got all excited about it. Hey, you just do some simple modifications to a semi-trailer, and you can save literally billions in fuel. So obviously, there's been a lot of traction there. Built a company in that space, but as we got into the 2016-17 time period, I was invited to be part of some of the early autonomous trucking companies. And I had spent a ton of time in distribution yards, and it was really exciting. But a lot of engineers shared that the hype was ahead of where the technology was.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And so again, I had spent a lot of time in distribution yards. It was crazy to me that you'd have a big idling diesel truck moving a trailer a couple hundred feet. So already it was clear electric vehicles would take over yards. But then as I learned about autonomy, it was like the chance to automate a yard is this perfect application, like you just said. The trick, though, this is sort of the piece of the company that has really differentiated Outrider. You can't just automate a vehicle. You have to automate a vehicle and all these other manual tasks that take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you can't automate the old yards were Magnadex T cards that, it's over here. The head loads are over here. The empties are over here. Your line haul throughs are over here. The 28s are there. The 40s, triple loads, tractor. Yeah, you can't. There's electronically, digitally needs to know where all that stuff is.
It's a complex thing, and so that and that really is why Outrider is different than anything else in the market, and why it's taken several years to bring this package together to our customers. But you've got to automate the vehicle. You've got to autonomously not just drive down the road. You got to hitch to a trailer of different sizes, different lengths. You have to autonomously connect the brake lines. You have to connect the glad hand to release the parking brakes on the trailer. Sure. You got to plug in electric lines, et cetera. You have to move that trailer to centimeter accuracy to the right dock at the right time. While you're driving around the yard, you've got to use deep learning and AI to actually confirm the location of all the assets in the yard. So there's all this stuff that has to go on. And then on top of that, you have to have the safety systems on top of it. So this large robot is doing the right thing at the right time. So Outrider literally built this team from the ground up to address the autonomy, to address the safety, to address the manipulation and integration in YMS, transportation management systems, et cetera. So it was a big animal to go after, and it's super exciting to see it coming to market this year.
Yeah. I mean, because unless you're in that situation or have been in that situation, people don't understand just how serious a crime it was for a yard jockey, as we call them, to not out of the mule, which we called it a mule, and go to the back of the truck at the dock and ensure that dock plate was pulled into the yard. If you got caught pulling away without doing that, there's a good chance you were fired on the spot.
Yeah. There's somebody loading a package and you pull out and a pallet fall. It's not trip. It is real stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they're using a forklift, they're falling down with a 10,000 pound weight, right? Yeah. Like dock height. It's not pretty seen. There's so much importance to it and understanding where they're going to sit. Was the technology there to automate that yard? Because you can't just say, like you said, you're implying and you're saying is you can't just throw an autonomous truck in that situation. The whole yard has to be figured out. It's like, I rode in some autonomous trucks, over the road autonomous trucks, right?
Yeah.
And good, but then they'll warn the driver, hey, we're coming up to an intersection where you're taking over, bro. And that's still the case to this day. Well, you built an autonomous truck in an area where that truck would say, no, screw it. I'm not doing that. Because it's a controlled environment. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So I'll hit on a couple points there. And again, just so your viewers you can go to their website and see this and look up articles about it. But essentially, just to break it down into simple pieces, I guess the first thing is when you're doing outdoor robotics, it's never going to be perfect. And so the question is, how do you make it really, really, really valuable, even if it's not perfect? And so the first level of that is right now, pull up my phone and press a button and go dispatch an autonomous electric yard truck, power of electricity, no driver, dispatch it, go find a trailer at our test facility and move it to a loading dock. So it can do that and it can do it all day long, touch of a button. But now let's just take the example. Let's say we go to connect to a trailer and our robotic arm, we literally can connect an airline on 98% plus of any unmodified trailer. Just any trailer gets dropped off, we can connect the glad hand just like a person. Let's say a plastic bag blows over the fence and gets stuck on the front face of the trailer. What do you do there in order to make sure that doesn't screw things up? And so we have an entire set of tools that allow us, in a typical yard, you'll have the majority of those vehicles are all autonomous, but you'll always have some level of human interaction. So we can notify people on pagers. We can notify a human-driven yard truck to go deal with that. And the autonomous vehicle goes and keeps doing things that robots are good at. But if we need a person, we can call in a person. So there's always this, we can take a yard as it is today, map it, drop our vehicles in. We can autonomously move trailers. If there's issues, it doesn't stop the system. We can alert people accordingly. And it's really making advanced AI and robots this tool to like exponentially increase what one person can do in a day, but you never kind of get rid of the person in total.
Exactly. And I have so many questions about that. But I mean, just laying out the yard, like saying, okay, the yard's laid out. Well, before you autonomize the yard, yard layout was always a living, breathing thing that was being changed all the time because people figure, well, wait a minute, linear motion's better than rectilinear motion. So why don't we do this instead of that, right? There's all these changes, but well, why don't we put the inbound over here and the outbound over there and do this? And it's crazy. But when I think of this, one of the things I always thought about was, okay, chalk blocks one. But that's that's something that was being solved back in the late 80s when I got into.
You got the dock locks more and
you got the dock locks and stuff like that started happening. So that helps. And then in LTL, you've got the dock personnel is going to pull the plate and roll the door down, but now with a 53 swinging door. How is that handled? Is that you have to autonomize all those trailers to be able to do that, or how is that handled?
That's a great question. So trailer swing doors in general, I mean, I have only almost really hurt myself once in my time, but I was a novice opening a swing door and I was in a hurry and I went to open the wrong side first. I cranked the lock rod and then I was oh my gosh, I'm opening the wrong side. And I go to the other side and I open that and it created pressure on the first one. It swung open. I almost was killed by a swing door trailer. So I'm proud to say
you're lucky you didn't knock yourself out, man.
I think a lot about the rear doors of trailers.
As a dock supervisor on a roadway dock, you become a rolling door technician, and the only tool you need is a dock hook. I can fix any tear down, rebuild any rolling door with just a dock hook, right? Because you just twist it to, get the bolts in it. And one time I was in one, I couldn't get it closed because one of the doors, we were closing the load, leaving the dock. I couldn't get the thing closed because one of the rollers came out at the top. So it's actually laying on top of the freight with my head kind of hanging backwards. So almost upside down and back, yanking on this door. And I had a piece of wood, a chalk block actually in the door. So when the door closed, it wouldn't slam shut and I could reach down and open it. And I don't have a radio on me. I'm upside down inside it. So I'm reaching for it. And somebody kicks that door open, locks that thing and calls it out as a head load. I was like, no. Yeah, I spent about a half hour upside down in 90-degree heat in Toledo.
We should make a short documentary movie on that. That's kind of crazy.
Well, that was back when it was still very much us and them. Teamsters versus.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was, you didn't walk. First rule as a supervisor, you go nowhere without your radio, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, that type of. But anyways.
You just mentioned Teamster stuff. I mean, this is one of our missions as a company is not only to accelerate zero emission vehicle technology into the industry, but also we talk about the responsible deployment of autonomy. And from our standpoint, that means a few things. Number one, it's demonstrating absolute best safety practices and bringing that safety to the industry. Number two, like you said, the hostler job, the shifter, yard dog, et cetera job, it's tough stuff. With all of our customers, we're looking at phasing this in at or below the attrition rate they see anyway. So it's not like anyone gets fired in this technology. And so what we're really looking for is with the human yard truck drivers that we work side by side with and the dispatchers in the warehouse, our whole job is to basically give people the ultimate tool to do their job and just lever up what one person can do. So there's so many benefits of not having to search for the trailer, not having people have to go out in the crazy conditions, et cetera. So that's something that we sort of pride ourselves on is we want this to be demanded by the Teamster unions and really liked by everybody in the operation.
Right. And that's a great point because like I said, being a yard jockey or hostler driver, it sucks, especially when you've got a system or a operation that's all swinging doors. right? I mean, imagine getting in and out of the truck 4 times every time you pick up or drop a trailer, and then you're picking up and dropping a few hundred during a shift.
Yeah.
You wear your body out really fast. And by the way, that's where most injuries occur, is getting in and out of the cab, which you're doing like 800 times in an 8-hour shift as a yard driver. So many over the road guys would say, I want that yard job because I want to be home every night. It wouldn't last a week. They're like, forget this. It's crazy. Because it's so much work. It's a tough position. A bit easier in LTL because you go in and you got the power fifth wheel. You just pull it up and you roll. But not when you have to stop and open and close doors constantly. That's not hip at all. How similar is it, I guess, is the right question I'm trying to ask, is between over-the-road technology? Is there sharing? Is there collaboration between and have they learned from each other kind of type of thing?
Yeah, there is a lot of overlap. But with any of this work, the devil's in the details. And so there's a lot of overlap, but the sensors that we think about on a daily basis are quite different than an over-the-road application. So again, we're thinking about how do you maneuver these with no modifications to a trailer? How can we maneuver these trailers around confined environments? An over-the-road guy is looking at how can I go straight at 60 miles an hour and have the right safety systems. And so the type of sensors you use, the type of safety case, it starts to get different. So what's really unique about what we're doing is we have this highly intelligent AI-driven autonomy system that allows us to navigate through yards safely with trailers of different types. And then we have a set of redundant safety mechanisms, which you can almost think of it as like a safe bubble around the vehicle, where we have safety validated components. And so Outrider is coming to market a lot sooner than some of these autonomous over-the-road plays. Again,
that's amazing to me, because as you're explaining to this, you start to realize that autonomous vehicle, the Auroras and so on that are cruising down the road, they're not backing up. Arguably more than half the job is backing up, right?
Well, that's the pain point, right?
Right, it is. But you're also backing up with potentially a 53-foot long box that has no sensors on it. How is your vehicle understanding the safety that could be 54, 55 feet away?
It is. I mean, in all seriousness, it's pretty magical how these systems work. So it is just sensor coverage on the vehicle. But compared to a human driver, we have sensors looking in all directions at all times. We also have perspectives that exceed what a human driver can do.
So it's just understanding those angles better of what it's seeing.
And then we are understanding the trailer angle. We're understanding everything in at least 2 ways, by the way, just from a safety redundancy standpoint. So we have methodologies to use the sensors on the vehicle and trailer angle in redundant ways. We have redundant ways to understand our position in the yard environment. And we have redundant ways to understand any dynamic actors coming toward the vehicle. So, our goal is to roll out a system that is, safer than the status quo, which will result in real, human life and injury benefits. So how it works, just talking a little bit about that. There's really 2 things. One is, algorithms and simple geometry, et cetera. And then we complement that as well with cutting edge deep learning and reinforcement learning techniques that, again, is all this AI that's coming out that allows us to predict what people are doing around the vehicle.
Yeah, I would imagine there's some pretty strict rules about people in general being in the yard when this is in operation.
The yard is a place where you want to one of the reasons the safety case is different is you have informed actors. That doesn't mean everyone's going to be perfect, right?
But
you at least have this extra layer. You don't have like a kid's birthday party in the middle of the yard, hypothetically. So we want informed actors. We want people staying away. Obviously, it's, when you have that many cameras, LiDAR and radar, it kind of discourages people from tampering with autonomous systems when everything's being recorded just by its own safety.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
So we have informed actors, and then the vehicles operate in a very predictable way, essentially, while checking their surroundings constantly.
Well, and the vehicle's communicating with other sensors and points within the yard and the operation, I would imagine, right?
So Outrider is specifically designed itself in order to be able to scale easily with customers and limit any infrastructure required. We actually just use the sensors on individual. It communicates with the cloud constantly to understand, what are the move missions of trailers that the customer wants. But each vehicle is pretty much acting independently, and certainly all the safety systems are just that vehicle alone. So some imitators, competitors, followers, et cetera, have said, hey, we'll put infrastructure all over your yard. If you're changing the layout of your yard all the time and you've got big, you could have stacks of containers all of a sudden blocking a view direction of a camera at an intermodal terminal. We want that individual unit to be very smart. So it's really sensors on that vehicle. At the end of the day, there's all this technology. At the end of the day, if you're our customer as an example, what I care about is increasing the throughput of your facility with higher safety. And so we can link into additional camera systems. We can link into transportation management systems. We can coordinate multiple vehicles. However, at the base unit, one system by itself can do a lot of work by itself. So we can layer those additional pieces on top, because at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver your throughput and coordinate all those movements. But we have the core technology at the individual vehicle level, so it doesn't depend on lots of infrastructure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% it does. How far into my productivity and my operation does this see or reach or have the intelligence to react to? In other words, so there's hot loads, there's service standards, there's all this thing that's happening. There's inbound that's coming in from the external regions. There's outbound coming in from your local terminals, et cetera, that are going through. And there's all this planning that's happening now in computer. When I started, it wasn't, but I helped develop those that did actually start planning it in AS400s and so on. So the people on the dock, and they know what or they think they know the best way, right, with the tools they have, of how the production and what trucks and et cetera should happen based on the knowledge. Now, all that knowledge theoretically is in the system. Take that into account, because what you've built is a brain that's controlling the vehicles. But it seems to me that at some point, the vehicles are like a secondary tool that the brain you're building is using, right? That was your spearhead, but here's the brain that's really the product, right?
Yeah, 100%. So if you think about like a yard management system, it's essentially the software program that's supposed to help cover for where humans fall short, like when they place trailers in the wrong place, et cetera. But yes, all of that optimization can be driven into the system. What the decision making in the system can be linked with rules that customers have about, hey, what are the priorities? And then, like I said, it can be linked directly into warehouse management software and or transportation management software. So we can start thinking ahead about, depending on which trucks are coming in, do we want them to go direct to dock, or do we want them to park? And then where do we want to place the trailer for that guy to be able to drop off that trailer and pick up the new one and get it on the road? Right. Or if there's a lot of congestion in one side of the yard, do we move, when we pull trailers from docks, do we put them in a different part of the yard? So all of those rules, you start to have these like it's very easy to guide your fleet of autonomous vehicles. And anytime there's a issue in the yard, we can alert. If somebody leaves a pallet where they're not supposed to, the cameras on our truck are constantly watching the yard for any irregularities, and we can call that to attention so we can fix. And so by streamlining the yard for autonomy, you're streamlining for human-driven drivers as well.
Fantastic. All we had was a magnet on the front of ours hanging down.
Hey, one last comment too. So I mentioned to you this interest in, seeing electric vehicles and the applications. The yard, like, it is a crime that electric vehicles are not in every yard right now. It is a place where there is on-site power. It is a place
I 100% agree.
There's no range anxiety. It's the perfect platform for autonomy. You don't have to do emissions checks, et cetera. Like it is crazy. So we're working very closely with these customers, not only to coordinate the throughput, but make it so they don't have to waste time with emissions treatments and low-level particulate matter near where their associates are working. And so it's this very clean thing. You throw some solar on the roof, and all of a sudden you're moving your yard operations by the power of the sun.
That is amazing. I'll tell you really quick. I was part of the team at Roadway Express that we did linear over rectilinear, and we pulled the drag lines. Do you remember drag lines on LTL docks?
No, I'm feeling.
Imagine
feeling
a
young.
200 door dock, right? It's
Yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
a cross door dock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's long, it's thin, you know the scope, right? And along the edges of it, about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet in, is this steel drag line and these huge carts that are being pulled by cogs in this drag line that go around the entire facility. And you put packages on there. All your carton freight is on there, and you mark what door it's going to, and if it's one of 10 carts or whatever. So the loaders knew this was coming. This was going around, and then you had people putting them on and taking them off, and then the pallets were all being moved by forklifts, right? Well, we got rid of the diesel when I started diesel forklifts, and then we had electric forklifts. So we had to put noise on the electric forklifts because you couldn't hear them. And then one day we walked out and said, you know what? We're going to get rid of the drag line. So we went, we did all our rectilinear motion, linear motion, did all the studies and stopwatches, all that crap, turned it off. Productivity went to the toilet because nobody knew what to do because it was dead silent. There was no noise.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It was like, they're just these little hum of, it was like, what do we do now?
What happened? That's crazy.
Well, you take that freight off of that truck and put it on that truck. Yeah, but how do I do that? There's no, it's funny how people
That's
go,
wild. That's wild. That's wild.
This has been fantastic. This has really been fantastic. I really enjoyed this. I was really looking forward to this since you agreed to come on the show. I really appreciate your time. I really
awesome.
do.
Michael, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in Chattanooga soon.
You got it. I can't wait to hear more of the advancements, my friend. So, hey, Outrider, go check out what they're doing. Say, hey, dude, come over here and give me autonomy in my yard, because I agree with you. It's fantastic what you guys doing. I love it. Peace, thanks, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.